Då kommer en direktrapport här från Tom Nash. Han brukar ju ha koll på läget. Han är ju med i Israel Wire och är mycket betrodd. Då lyssnar vi på honom här.
So, is Israel headed to war with Hezbollah over what's going on right now in northern Israel? Now, in case you haven't heard, the Hezbollah attacks on North Israel that started pretty much on October 7th have really intensified and escalated over the past few weeks. In the beginning of the war, Hezbollah essentially started firing rockets and all sorts of drones to the northern Israel, and that basically caused the Israeli government to evacuate a large portion of that population, essentially creating a security strip inside its own country, which was absolutely unheard of, unprecedented for the Israelis, but was considered the lesser of two evils because of their lack of desire, understandably, of fighting a war on two fronts. And, it's a complex exercise, let's put it this way. But what happened over the past few weeks is that Hezbollah has become more brazen. They've escalated both the intensity and the range of the attacks, which means they're firing deeper into Israel, much bigger rockets at much faster pace, essentially testing the borders of how far they can take this. Now, so far, the Israelis have contained this by having this measured tit for tat with Hezbollah, basically bombing some Hezbollah installations and Hezbollah fighters in every retaliation, essentially keeping it in a very contained manner. But over the past few days, the verbiage coming out of Jerusalem has changed, and it's becoming more offensive. It is becoming more urgent in the sense that they're saying, look, we're had enough and we're about to actually strike back because we can't take this no more. This has just gone too far for Hezbollah. Now, there's three options here, really. Option number one is that the Israelis will still contain this. They'll take it because they want to be finished with Gaza first before moving on Hezbollah, just to avoid a second front. Option number two, this has gone too far. Benjamin Netanyahu and his government cannot afford politically not to strike back proper at Hezbollah after what they've done in the past 2 weeks. So they're forced to go to a second front from a political perspective because otherwise they look weak and they look incompetent, more than they already have on October 7th. Now, option number three is a diplomatic solution, and that's based on an old UN resolution nobody cares about. But that resolution essentially would be the base of a deal that would be brokered by the US between Hezbollah and Israel, pushing Hezbollah a little bit up to the north of Lebanon, pushing them away from the border, getting everybody to chill the fuck down. Unfortunately, this option number three, the diplomatic solution, is highly unlikely. What is also unlikely is that the Israelis are mad enough or pissed enough to wage a war on two fronts after a 7-month war in Gaza. So in my humble opinion, what I think is the most likely option is that despite of how horrendous the current situation is, it's not as bad as fighting a war in two fronts. So for me, it seems like option number one, which is finish with Gaza first, then move to the Hezbollah, seems to be the most likely option. It will require a lot of political maneuvering on the side of the Benjamin Netanyahu government to essentially explain to their own base why that's a good idea. Because it's not easy when you see people and buildings and roads getting bombarded on a daily basis. But as long as they can sell this politically back home, they'll prefer to wait after Gaza to go into a war with a formidable opponent, at least much more formidable than Hamas in Gaza, like Hezbollah in the north of Israel. Now, for the Israelis, the next few months will be critical. What they're trying to do is a plan that includes a few elements. Number one, they understand that over the past 15 years, Iran has managed to build a front base of operations in Gaza on their border. That has to be taken out. Also, they have to take out the military abilities of Hamas. They may not be able to destroy Hamas as a political movement, as a concept. It might take years, but take away their guns. They have to cut oxygen from the smuggling tunnels from Rafah crossing from Egypt, and they have to destroy the entire ruling system of Hamas so it doesn't function as a civilian ruling governing body in Gaza. And of course, they have to eliminate the existence of the political wing, the Khalid Mashals, all this crew that's running around the world and fundraising for Hamas. That doesn't mean that they have to kill every single political operator of Hamas, but at the very least, they have to make them irrelevant or radioactive, untouchable. And of course, they have to create an image of a massive loss for the Palestinians to understand that next time they try this, It's not going to be a rewarding exercise. That's why the imagery is important. The loss is important. They have to show the Palestinians, hey, guys, if you try this again, this is what's coming for you. That's why it's not a good idea. With the combination of all these factors, what they're trying to do is essentially create a situation where this doesn't happen again. Now, obviously, the first stage will require Israeli military presence for weeks, months, maybe even years in Gaza. But I don't think the Israelis have long-term plans over the course of the next 10 years to stay the rulers of Gaza. Hopefully,